Good afternoon, and welcome to From Where We Are, stories of news and culture through the lens of USC and Southern California. I'm Daniela Lake, coming to you live from Studio B in USC's Annenberg Media Center.
And I'm Ari Rose Marquez. It's Monday, October 7th.
Today marks 1 year since Hamas attacked Israel, killing about 1,200 people and taking many others hostage. We'll look at how students on USC's campus are reflecting on the day as conflict continues in Gaza, Israel, Lebanon, and across the Middle East.
Today, we'll bring you several stories, including a vigil on campus by Jewish organizations to commemorate grief, memory, and togetherness.
And a student walkout in support of Palestine, mourning the deaths of more than 40,000 Palestinians, according to Gaza's Ministry of Health.
And we'll hear from USC's Dean of Religious Life on finding hope that the divisions of the last year might heal.
And normally when you work with students, you want to go to the source of pain because that's really where you can operate at a deeper level.
All that and more from where we are.
are.
After today's top headlines.
The Bosnia death toll continues to rise as residents suffer from flooding and landslides that took place Friday overnight. According to CNN, at least 21 are dead and dozens are missing in the Jablanca area as a result. According to Reuters, years of neglect of riverbeds, deforestation, and uncontrolled construction have made these floods all the more devastating. Thankfully, rescue teams started arriving Sunday to help locate those missing underneath the rubble. These teams come from countries surrounding Bosnia as well as the European Union.
Residents of Florida are bracing for the imminent landfall of Hurricane Milton this Wednesday, as the inbound storm has now strengthened to a Category 5. The Florida Division of Emergency Management and State Governor Ron DeSantis have announced precautionary measures, but the aftermath of Hurricane Helene is continuing to create logistical problems for local communities. Tampa Mayor Jane Castor shared her thoughts on the recent trouble.
We haven't had a direct hit in over a century, but Helene really woke everyone up. I can say my entire time, I've never seen the damage that we saw with Helene, and Milton is on a whole other plateau.
The damage caused by Hurricane Helene has cost the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, over $210 million in aid so far.
returning home to LA to serve as the 59th Chief of Police. Chief Jim McDonough.
Last Friday morning, Jim McDonough was announced by LA Mayor Karen Bass as the new LAPD chief. This announcement comes following Mitchell Moore's sudden retirement earlier this year. McDonough has previously served as chief of Long Beach Police Department, as well as former Los Angeles County Sheriff. According to Bass, his previous colleagues have described him as a man of integrity. A long road lies ahead for McDonough, particularly with the 2026 World Cup and the 2028 Olympics taking place in the near future.
In light of multiple events on campus commemorating October 7th, DPS is increasing their security measures. DPS Assistant Chief David Carlisle has stated they will be coordinating with the LAPD and will be highly visible on campus in hopes of ensuring safety for students, faculty, staff, and visitors. Places of worship will also have stationed DPS officers. Carlisle has reassured that DPS will not intervene in demonstrations unless absolutely necessary and will not take sides in any way.
From his body language,
after review, it is a touchdown.
Minnesota takes the lead.
The Trojan football team took another loss this weekend in Minnesota after a series of very contentious calls on the field. Officials reviewed a touchdown scored by the Gophers multiple times during the fourth quarter, but the final blow was delivered by an incomplete pass from Miller Moss. The intercepted ball provided Minnesota's offense with the opportunity they needed to bring the game home. The final score read 17-24, and this game marked the second away game loss for USC in the Big Ten.
On this first anniversary of an infamous day in history, U.S. students and people around the world look to remember and heal from what happened on October 7th, 1 year ago. We visited with campus Jewish organizations as they prepare for a vigil to honor the lives lost and the hostages still being held. Ian Maley has the story.
Right across from Tommy Trojan, members of the USC Chabad organization are praying and wrapping tefillin, a traditional Jewish custom where a leather strap is wrapped around the hand and arms, and a box containing a Hebrew prayer is placed on one's head. They are also offering support to students in preparation for a vigil tonight commemorating the 1 year anniversary of the October 7th attacks.
We're here now talking to people, doing mitzvahs and prayers together. That's how we cope. We cope by looking towards life.
That is Dov Wagner, head rabbi of the USC Chabad organization. He says the trauma experienced by the Jewish people that started last October 7th is still occurring. With no end in sight to the Gaza war and dozens of Israelis still being held hostage, Wagner says a chronic reminder that life is still being held captive.
It's very hard to commemorate a day that hasn't ended yet. October 7th hasn't ended yet. It's still ongoing. The hostages are still in captivity. The effects on all of our people around the world and so many other people are still ongoing.
But he hopes gatherings like the one tonight will help promote some sort of healing.
We do our best to translate tears into growth, into hope for the future, into working towards a better world.
At the Campus Hillel Center, Executive Director Dave Cohen prepared for the same vigil.
And we're really trying to hold our students in their individual journeys as they process the ongoing pain and strife and trauma in the world and provide them with every resource that we can.
Both organizations aim to help students as they face the gravity of what happened and a conflict that is far from over.
It's not getting any simpler. It's not getting any more peaceful. That's an incredibly difficult reality to cope with.
For Annenberg Media, I am Ian Maley.
And we'll have a live report from the vigil later in our show. Stay tuned for that.
As we'll hear, there are many moods around campus today, and all were interrupted this morning by LAPD trucks and activity near school. They were responding to a suspicious package, and throughout this afternoon, the university closed many of its entrance gates. Scott Hills has the story.
A, quote, unidentified package found outside USC's campus this morning prompted a police investigation. We don't know what the package looked like, but it led to a visit from the Los Angeles Police Department bomb squad, which sent a truck to the scene. Officers swarmed 30th Street between Hoover Avenue and University Avenue, just north of USC's University Park campus. USC Trojans Alert, the school's emergency notification system, alerted students, faculty, and staff to the investigation at 11:29 this morning. Trojans were warned to stay away from the area. The Campus Department of Public Safety announced the investigation concluded just after 1 p.m., at which point 30th Street reopened. Unrelated to the package, campus security also alerted students that campus gates at Jefferson Boulevard and Truesdale Parkway were temporarily closed. That was due to a pro-Palestine walkout this morning that took place around the perimeter of campus. The entrances to campus have since reopened, though DPS presence is expected to remain elevated throughout the evening. For Annenberg Media, I'm Scott Hills.
Some USC students marked the October 7th anniversary with a walkout to protest the deaths of more than 40,000 Palestinians in Gaza as Israeli military action there continues. Teray Ebamami has the story.
The walkout began at 11:30 this morning. Nearly 100 people gathered at the Truesdale entrance to campus. For nearly 2 hours, students marched around the perimeter of campus, some holding signs, some wearing keffiyehs. The protest was organized by Student Justice for Palestine. The group has a policy of not naming its spokespeople.
It's the moral apathy of this country that we are struggling against. We're fighting against apartheid, we're fighting against colonialism, we're fighting against so many different struggles at once, and most of all, we're fighting for Palestinian life and liberation.
Organizers say they also want for USC to divest in financial interests that may benefit the Israeli military. The ongoing conflict has divided the USC community since last year, when protesters set up an encampment and dozens were arrested. Some students have since reported feeling unsafe coexisting with other people's beliefs and opinions. Not everyone has been supportive of the protests. Jackson Tavel, a junior studying aerospace engineering, watched the walkout this morning take place. He said last year's protests affected his studies and access to campus.
All this kind of went down in the middle of finals, and so I had to figure out a place to study.
Tavel also expressed regret for how the university handled things last year.
I think that if we had handled things differently and maybe they had handled things differently, there would have been a better solution.
But Cesar Tiscareno, a sophomore studying philosophy, politics, and law, was there today in support.
I think it's a really good thing that students and maybe even faculty are able to do this, especially at an institution like this.
Memorial ceremonies are continuing all around Los Angeles today. For Annenberg Radio News, I'm Teray Ebamami.
I'm Daniela Lake. We're glad you're with us for From Where We Are.
And I'm Ari Rose Marquez. It's 27 minutes past the hour. And now, as promised, let's go live to the vigil on campus to mark the first anniversary of the October 7th killings. Annenberg Media's Scott Hill is on the scene and joins us. Scott, what are you seeing?
Hey guys, I'm Scott Hills here live from Tommy Trojan at the on-campus vigil hosted by various Jewish organizations. There's a band performing music as well as tables with various information. We see a lot of people with yellow ribbons. There's a large turnout already here. The event's starting at 5 p.m. We're about a half hour in now with large groups of people continuing to show up. It's a very pensive event thus far, mournful and reflective, people gathering together, playing music, and preparing to speak.
Mm-hmm. And have you talked to anyone? Why are people saying they wanted to come to this?
Yeah, I had a chance to speak to a couple people before the event began, and the general consensus is that these students are looking for a place to mourn and gather together. Many students are using it as a reflective environment, reflecting on the events of the world from the last year and looking to find community in one another.
And Scott, are there any counter-protests nearby?
No, at the moment we are not seeing any counter-protests nearby. As I said, a big student turnout thus far at the vigil, but a rather quiet, calm event up to this point. We do see USC DPS surrounding the area, We heard some Free Palestine chants in the distance a few minutes ago, but no counter protests to our knowledge at this point.
And do you know some of the people who are expected to speak?
We see different representatives of various on-campus Jewish organizations such as Chabad and Hillel. And yeah, they're preparing now to begin their speeches. Music still playing. A lot of students now here.
Well, thank you, Scott. That was Scott Hills reporting live from Tommy Trojan here on campus at a vigil sponsored by Jewish organizations at USC.
Every student will have a unique way of coping with the ongoing Israel-Hamas war, and Dr. Varun Soni is trying to help them all. He's the Dean of Religious Life here at USC and also serves on the advisory board of the Center for Muslim-Jewish Engagement. I asked Dean Soni if he could offer any healing words for us and for students. Dean Soni began by saying that the students he's talking to are dealing with 5 emotions at this time: grief, fear, anger, abandonment, and exhaustion.
And so as a chaplain, I tend to operate from the perspective of feelings. There are many people on our campus, professors and others, researchers, who operate more in the world of facts. But when I'm operating from the perspective of feelings, what I would like people to know is that you're not alone in the way you feel. And what makes us human sometimes is seeing ourselves in each other. And in this day and age, it's hard to see ourselves in each other because we live in a very polarized world. But the way we can see ourselves in each other is by understanding that we're all feeling the same way. And even if we might disagree on, a perspective, an approach, or the geopolitics of any particular issue, can we see our feelings in each other?
I asked Dr. Soni, how can we make everyone on campus feel comfortable and safe? He says the challenge is to make all students feel they belong. And then he says what some might not even want to hear.
I think the quiet part out loud here, if I'm going to say the quiet part out loud, is that it's going to be hard to reconcile that reality on campus until there's a different reality on the ground. One of the challenges for many people on university campuses is we feel disempowered to engage the source of pain, even though we are managing the downstream impacts of it. And normally when you work with students, you want to go to the source of pain because that's really where you can operate at a deeper level, at a soul level. I think that's the part that feels disempowering for a lot of people in the university.
A university that, like all others, is founded, Dr. Soni says, on 2 pillars.
The 2 pillars of what makes a university run, in my opinion, are free speech and public safety. Over the last year, those 2 pillars, core pillars that are essential for the functioning of any university, are in tension with each other. Because students have expansive free speech rights, but that might make other students feel less safe or might have a chilling effect on students speaking or attending class or doing other things. How do we keep students safe and how do we also honor the expansive free speech rights that they have? That's a challenge that every university has struggled with.
But the work must be done.
We all do this work because we love the idea of interfaith. On a campus like USC with more religious groups than any American university, with more chaplains than any American university, in the heart of the most religiously diverse city in human history, the opportunities for interfaith work are extraordinary. And yet this has been the hardest year to do the work.
Through that hard work, Dean Soni says, he and his students discovered that during these times of hardship, people seek refuge within their own faith.
We all know that this is the worst of time for Jewish and Muslim students for all sorts of reasons. But I also see it as, in some ways, the best of times in terms of the love, the community, the shared sense of being able to tell a story about the community and about the world in a way that I just hadn't seen before.
Dean Soni also told me that he encourages students to visit the Office of Religious and Spiritual Life for more resources and told me his door is always open.
And that's all we have time for on today's From Where We Are. Gabby Medina executive produced and directed today's show. Amy Lopez and Anthony Klingerman produced the show. We had help from Antonia Brooks, Natalia Fierro Gomez, Gianmarco Velasquez, Liam Irvin, and Lauren Shia Miller.
Our board operator is Sam Bittman. Our live stream manager is Aria Zhao, and Derek Renfro composed our theme music.
Catch us live on YouTube at Annenberg Radio News, Monday through Thursday at 5 p.m. Subscribe to From Where We Are wherever you're listening right now. Finally, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Annenberg Radio. I'm Daniela Lake.
And I'm Ari Rose Marquez. From all of us at Annenberg Radio, wherever you are, we hope you'll join us again for
From Where We Are.
So, Daniela, one wish for the upcoming year.
Peace.
I like that.